Ilia Topuria was already surfing a tidal wave of hype when the UFC detonated the bombshell that lit the fuse for UFC 317. Reigning lightweight King Islam Makhachev has vacated his throne and bolted up to welterweight, leaving the 155-pound crown gleaming and unclaimed in Las Vegas. That thunderclap decision catapults Topuria into a make-or-break collision with former champion Charles Oliveira on June 28, 2025 at the T-Mobile Arena. The stakes could not be higher. Win, and the undefeated Spaniard-Georgian phenom becomes the UFC's freshest double-division monarch. Lose, and the aura of invincibility he's cultivated since his amateur days could evaporate overnight. Quick favor before we dive in. If you live for stories that blend ruthless ambition, razor-edge technique, and the seismic drama of MMA history in the making, hammer that subscribe button and ring the bell. One click keeps this combat sports deep dive machine roaring, and it tells the algorithm you want more spine-tingling breakdowns, upsets, and behind-the-scenes revelations. Now, strap in, because to understand why this night could launch a superstar or plunge him into free fall, we have to rewind to the bloody highlight reel that built Topuria's legend. 16 victories, 0 defeats, and a trail of battered elite contenders in his wake. That's the resume Topuria forged at 145 pounds. He ragdolled grappling prodigy Bryce Mitchell, brutalized Iron Lungs Josh Emmett, and then detonated two living legends, Alexander Volkanovski and Max Holloway, back-to-back. Those scalps made him the undisputed featherweight ruler, but defending the crown wasn't enough. In February 2025, he voluntarily vacated the belt, declaring his mission to collect real estate at lightweight instead. Critics called it reckless. Believers called it destiny. Either way, Topuria's blend of stalking footwork, piston jab entries, and nuclear-tipped overhands had fans and sponsors foaming at the mouth. Yet with every KO, the pressure thermometer ticked higher. Unblemished records in MMA are porcelain dreams, gorgeous, coveted, and one slip from shattering. And the man poised to yank Topuria into the furnace happens to be a master of chaos. Charles "Du Bronx" Oliveira once walked the razor's edge between brilliance and heartbreak, surrendering gold to Islam in Abu Dhabi in 2024, then eating a gritty decision loss to Arman Tsarukyan. Critics whispered he was finished, until a blistering comeback KO of Michael Chandler vaulted him back into title talk and erased doubts about his fire. Stat sheets drool over Oliveira's numbers, most submissions and finishes in UFC history, a venomous guard, and limbs like live wires. He arrives in Vegas with a 4-inch reach advantage and a habit of dragging over-eager punchers into jiu-jitsu quicksand. But his chin is mortal, and Topuria's fists are calibrated to find it. Still, battles aren't fought on paper or in tweets. They're sculpted by psychology, and right now the narrative war is raging. When Makhachev chose welterweight glory, Topuria wasted 0 syllables branding the Dagestani mentally broken and terrified. Fans surged. Pundits debated ducking. Oliveira fired back, promising to shut that kid's mouth in spectacular fashion. The verbal artillery matters. In fight promotion economics, tension is currency, and this bout is now minted in pure gold. Yet talk alone can't shield Topuria from the curveball about to hit his inner circle. Just weeks before UFC 317, Topuria split from the Clement brothers, the coaches who groomed him from cage rookie to champion, and relocated camp to a tricked-out gym inside his Madrid home, cornered only by his brother Alexandre and boxing mentor Javi Clement. Supporters tout the move as a bespoke, distraction-free laboratory. Detractors scream last-minute chemistry gamble. Both are right. Chemistry is intangible, but under pay-per-view spotlights, intangibles morph into knockdowns or gas tank cliffs. Strip away memes and callouts, and the clash resolves into brutal physics. Topuria's blueprint: forward march, tight boxing shell, body head combos that crescendo into a bazooka right. He rarely shoots takedowns, but when he sprawls like a concrete pillar. Oliveira's arsenal: teeping kicks that stake territory, knees up the middle, guillotine traps that snare necks and scrambles, and a guard buzzing with triangle webs. Key variables: first round thunder. Oliveira gets dropped early and many wins. Topuria is a daylight robber in round 1, cutting weight upwards. The Spaniard handled 145 cuts flawlessly. 155 may gift him extra cardio, or if mismanaged, produce lactic acid-led boots by championship rounds. Ground detonations. Charles needs one slip to tie a limb in knots. Topuria's jiu-jitsu black belt is legit, but he's never swum in these depths under live bullets. If Ilia bulldozes past the jab and detonates leather on skull before Oliveira can lasso a neck, history books flip their pages. If Oliveira lures a brawl and rolls into mount, the coronation becomes a nightmare chokefest. Should Topuria win, he'll be the youngest active double champ since McGregor, an undefeated 17-0 phenom who slayed Volkanovski, Holloway, and Oliveira in one 18-month blur. Sponsorship walls crumble, mainstream talk shows beckon. A loss, though, punctures his myth. Undefeated no more, he tumbles from next global icon to loud prospect who flew too high. Oliveira, conversely, would reclaim the belt he never lost in the cage and ice, a resurrection arc worthy of Hollywood. Meanwhile, Makhachev hunts welterweight gold versus knockout machine Jack Della Maddalena, and featherweight's vacant throne has contenders circling like hawks. Spanish-language networks are already negotiating sublicensing rights should Topuria claim the belt, predicting a ratings boom from Madrid to Buenos Aires. If he wins, expect UFC to fast-track a super fight, Makhachev-Ilia, in late 2026, champion versus champion, pay-per-view catnip. But none of those dominoes fall unless Topuria survives the Oliveira minefield. Inside a converted warehouse on the outskirts of Madrid, Topuria's new camp looks less like a gym and more like a Silicon Valley startup with heavy bags. Ice bath pods line one wall, motion capture cameras track every sparring exchange, and a Spanish-Georgian nutrition team calibrates his macros to the gram. Nights finish in a hypoxic sleep chamber that simulates 2,400 meters altitude, trick training his red blood cell count without ever leaving sea level. Recovery is scheduled with military precision, 8-minute cryoblast, red light therapy, and a physio who travels with an ultrasound wand the way cornermen once carried Vaseline. Oliveira's approach is equally cutting edge, but tuned to a different frequency. His Sao Paulo team rebuilt his body after the Sarukian loss with Pilates for core stabilization, endless no-gi rounds to sharpen guard retention, and, most crucially, short savage sparring blocks that protect a chin already battle-tested in 45 pro fights. In Vegas, the two schools of science will collide, one chasing marginal gains in explosive output, the other reinforcing a submission engine honed over a decade of wars. And yet, for all the cold data and next-gen analytics, there's one variable the spreadsheets can't model. Step outside the cage, and you'll feel it in the air. Spain hasn't owned a men's world champion in a global combat sport since Kiko Martinez held boxing gold in 2014. The peninsula's hunger to crown a modern icon crackles through every interview Topuria gives in Castellano. Meanwhile, Brazil still roars for its Filho da Favela. Charles carries the flag of shoot-box chaos and the ghost of Rua, Silva, and Nogueira every time he walks to the octagon. Deep pride fuels both men. Topuria invokes his Georgian roots before every bout, threading orthodox crosses into his hand wraps. Oliveira prays with teammates, then slaps on sunglasses that hide eyes already swimming with adrenaline. Those rituals may sound cosmetic, but history shows belief can yank a fighter off the canvas, or shatter him the moment doubt creeps in. Outside the arena, broadcast execs salivate. Win or lose, a Spanish-speaking megastar opens doors from Buenos Aires to Barcelona. A resurgent Brazilian champion reignites the nation that once filled soccer stadiums for Silva and Aldo. The economic aftershocks, new TV deals, Sao Paulo fight cards, Madrid fan fests will ripple long after the blood dries on the T-Mobile canvas. Which brings us to the moment destiny stops being theory and starts swinging leather. On June 28th, two men will lock the octagon door with legacies on the line and a vacancy begging for an heir. Either Ilia Topuria completes a meteoric legend arc, or Charles Oliveira drags him into the depths and proves fairy tales bleed like everyone else. So, fight fans, who walks out of Vegas with gold? Youthful Fury or Seasoned Venom? Drop your pick in the comments, and don't forget, every week we rip open another blockbuster storyline, so smash that subscribe and ride shotgun with us on MMA's wildest roller coaster. The next chapter of combat sports history is only one punch away.